Hi guys, welcome to iFashi. Here is the part 2 of this beautiful top we posted earlier. We already posted the drafting of this, how to draft this top. So before we go into the sewing of the top, we are going to go through how to draft the back. We mistakenly omitted it in the first video. So we're going to draft the back first before we start sewing this top. If you haven't watched how we drafted the front part of this top, the video is already up on the channel and the link to the video is in the description box. So now let's begin with the back drafting. So the first thing we're going to do is to draw out a straight line in front, in the top of the paper. The straight line will serve as our shoulder line. That's where all our measurements will be taken from. So on this straight line, we're going to take your shoulder measurement and then come down by 1 inch for your shoulder slope. And then you take your neck width measurement, mine is 3.3. So slant your shoulder to the neck point. And then from there, you're going to come down with your chest line, your bust line, your waist line. So remember, the waist measurement for your back is different from the front. So take your nape to waist measurement and impute it. After that, you draw out the lines and label the lines. This is my chest line, my bust point line, and my waist measurement. So I'll be using 15.5. My half length for front is 17 and my back is 15.5. So we already shaded out that extra inch on the bust point at the front so that the front will not be longer than the back. So after taking that waist measurement, I introduce my front paper. So this is the side front of my pattern. So I would use it to mark out the hip curve. Putting the two waists together in the same line, I'll mark out my hip curve so that the front will not be longer than the back. And then I will take 8 inches from the hip on the other part of the back, except for the side, the hip part. So I'll just go ahead and curve it out. Now after that, we take off the paper and take our nipple to nipple measurement to get our back dart. After marking out that back dart, I'll also go to the chest line and mark my armhole measurement. So come straight down from that 8 inches from the shoulder point you took. Take the same measurement you took for your shoulder, take it on the chest line, and then mark a straight line with your straight rule. So divide what you have on this straight line by 2 to get the midpoint of your armhole. So the next thing I will do is to start taking my body measurements and add 1 inch allowance, except on the waistline. On the waistline, I'll take my waist measurement. I will not add any seam allowance because I want the waist to be snatched. Before we come back to the hip line, we're going to go back to our armhole line. Like I said earlier, divide what you have on that straight line by 2 and mark your midpoint. It is on that midpoint that you use your curve rule to curve your armhole to. Now remember, for the front we came in by 0.5. For the back you don't have to come in, just use your curve rule to curve out your armhole from that midpoint to your chest line. Now after this, we're going to go back to the hip line to take our dart measurements. Take your nipple to nipple measurement on your hip line and then use a straight line to connect the lines together so that you can take out your dart. Now on the waistline, you're going to go out on both sides by 0.75 or 1 inch, depends on how snatched you want it to be. So after doing that, some persons use 0.5 for their darts. It's very okay, but I used 0.75 here because I really want this top to have that waist snatched effect. So I'm going to curve my dart to the waistline from the hip and the chest, but we did not get up to the chest exactly. We came down under the chest line by 1 inch. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to curve out this hip line that I told you before by introducing your front piece so that the front and the back will be equal on both sides. This is done after taking all your measurements. Now that the measurement is done, just connect all your lines together and we're almost done with the drafting of this back piece. Now that we're done connecting all our lines together, we're going to go back up to the yoke. So remember, the front has a Queen Anne neckline, a tiny strap by your chest. So we're bringing back the front yoke to mark out the back yoke. You can decide to do the same measurement, the same yoke for the back and front. But in this case, after marking out this yoke measurement I used for the front, for those that might want to do the same thing for back and front, I also went ahead and did a second yoke that I would like to use because I want my back to be covered. It will only just have that keyhole at the back, but it will have a button at the neck to hold down my shoulder. So I'll come down on the neckline by 1 inch for our normal neckline measurement, and then I'll curve that 1 inch, come again by 1 inch for our button, and then I'll curve it with my curve rule. So this part that I curved will be cut out. Now after this, I'm going to come in on the back by 1 inch or 1.5, depends on how many inches you want to be open, because this back will have an eyelet at the back. But if you do not want eyelet, you can add 2 inches for your zip, as you see me pointing out. If you want to use a zip, add your zipper allowance. Remember, there's no zipper allowance here. So if you want to use zip, add 2 inches to your pattern paper. But I'm using eyelet, so that's why I'm cutting off 1.5. So this line that I just marked will serve as the small back piece where the eyelets will be fixed, and then I will cut out this other part alongside with this curved yoke. So after doing this, we're going to label out our pattern paper so that when we cut out, we will not be confused. This is the yoke 1, then this is the yoke 2. This is optional, depends on the one you want to use. I just pointed it out for you to make your choice. So I also labeled out my center back and my side back 1 and 2. So the next thing I'm doing now is to take my armhole dart. This is because I don't want the yoke to be bulging at the back. I want it to stay firm. So I'll just go up and down by 0.5 and then mark it out, because I'll cut it off to make my yoke firm after you attach it to the back piece. So then I'll go ahead and cut out like this. After doing all of this, you're done with the back piece. So just watch closely to see the parts that I'm cutting off and how I'm cutting it off, so that you don't make a mistake. Then after cutting out the back piece, I'm going to introduce the front piece that we cut out earlier, and then we'll bring the fabric that we'll be using for this project. So here is the back piece, as you can see on the table. Here is the front piece. Remember to label so you don't get confused. Here's the center back, side back, the back yoke, front yoke, and center front and side front. So this is the fabric I'll be using for this project. It's a damask fabric, and this is the chantilly lace, the lining, and the estee. So I'll just go ahead and attach my paper and cut it off, then iron it. So this is what we have after ironing and cutting them out. The pieces are ready. I cut out my lining and the main fabric, and I also gummed the estee to them. So while cutting, remember to add your seam allowance to the parts that there are no allowance already, which is the parts that you are joining, especially on the front piece. Now this is the cup. I've also gone ahead to cut out the pieces that we use to cover my bra cup. So I'll just go ahead and arrange it on the table for you to see how I'll be joining them. So this is the center front, and this is the first and second side front, because they are not the same. So I will join them on this part I'm showing you, turn it over, and then this center front, I will fold it into 2 equally, iron it to give me the middle. So the reason I'm doing that is to know where I would put my boning channel. That's why I will iron it out, to be sure. I would repeat the same thing on the lining pieces as well. I'll join them on the sides I'm showing you, and then I'll be right back to show you. So we'll take this off. This is the back piece. watch the way I'm arranging it, because I'm taking them to the sewing machine to go and join. So this is the main fabric and the side back and the center back. So you join it here, flip it over, join it the same way on the other side, flip it over. I will repeat the same thing on the lining, and I'll be right back to show you guys. So this is what we have after joining. I joined the two side fronts to the middle front, and then I did the same thing for the lining. So when you flip it over, remember I told you I'll iron the middle so that I can make my boning channel on that middle. So the line is showing clearly so that my boning channel will not go bent. That's why I just did the iron to guide me. So the next thing I'll do now, bones will be in between these stitches I made. So that's why I flipped it over to show you. Then I also create another line where I would also use my bias to create a boning channel. So that's that for the front. Now this is the back. We've gone ahead to join the side back to the center back. So we'll also open it out to iron. Remember to always press your work. Give it a very neat press. It makes your job very, very neat. Now I also repeated the same thing on the lining, just that we will not be adding bones to the lining. Some persons prefer to add bones to their lining, but this is a damask fabric. It's strong enough to carry bones. That's why I'm putting it on the main fabric. Now after that, I've gone ahead to join the cups together. The fabric I will use to cover the cup. If you don't understand this part, use your paper. Bring your paper that you drafted so that you know the sides that you will join, so that you don't get confused. Now after joining, use your bust hem to iron it out so that it will be very neat. Now on your bra cup, you are going to mark out the middle point, and then use your tape to take 1 inch or 1.5, depends on the size of the cup. Then you make a dart so that it will give your cup this space for your breast to sit. After holding that dart, it makes the cup more curvy. But if it's a padded cup already, there's no need to hold this dart. So I'm just going to go ahead to the sewing machine and cover that cup. After covering the cup, I'll attach it to the front piece, both on the lining and on the main fabric. So I'll just go ahead and arrange it on the table for you guys to see what I'm going to the sewing machine to do. So after attaching the cups, I'll go ahead and attach my back to my front on the sides, as you see me doing. So the next thing I'm going to do now is attach the fabric to the cup, and then attach the cup to the front piece. I'll repeat the same thing on the lining, and then on the side, on the lining as well, we'll attach the back on both sides. And then I'll be right back to show you guys. So this is what we have after attaching the cup to the fabric. This is for the lining. I've attached the cup to the fabric, and I've attached the sides as well. And then this is for the main fabric. The cup has been covered with the fabric and then attached to the front piece. So I also went ahead and attached the side, the back to the front on the sides. So remember I told you you hold your dart on your cup before you cover it. So I've also gone ahead to use my bias to create the boning channels that I marked out earlier for the front, where we'll be attaching our bones. Now the next thing we're going to do now is to turn on the bust part, to use the lining to turn the fabric. But before we do that, we're going to attach our yoke, both the back yoke and the front yoke. So this is the lace, the chantilly lace I told you I'll be using for the yoke. I've gone ahead to cut it out and fold it with bias. So this is the front yoke. Just attach it front side facing each other. Use your pin to secure it down on both cups, starting from not at the midpoint exactly, but close to the midpoint. If you arrange your pattern paper if you arrange the yoke of your pattern paper to the bodice of your pattern paper, you understand where you should start from. But if not, just watch this video closely and see where I am pinning the yoke from. You can decide to start from the midpoint of your cup. If you see the stitch where the stitch was made in the middle, you can decide to start from there. Totally your choice. But I'm following the exact picture how it is. So attach it using your pin to hold it down on both back and front, making sure that the right side of the fabric is facing each other. and then the armhole of the back and front is facing each other as well. After this, you're just going to check it out and see if what you pinned down is correct before you go ahead and sew. After sewing it, you will use your lining to turn. So we're going to go to the sewing machine, hold this down, and then turn it with our lining. So let me show you how to, I'm just going to show you how to turn it with your lining. After checking to make sure what you arranged is correct, flip your fabric right side facing each other with the lining. The right side of your lining would face the right side of your fabric, as you see me doing in the video. Arrange it like this. You can decide to secure it down with a pin. You see it's equal. If it is not equal, maybe what you stitched is wrong. So this is how you're going to sew it straight down and flip it to the other side. Now after joining it, this is what we have. I've gone ahead to join the lining to the fabric. While I was joining it, I added hemming gum. This is because I want it to be firm when I flip it over and iron it. The hemming gum will make it stay intact. So that's why I added. But before we go ahead and iron it, we're going to top stitch. Push all the fabric you have underneath to the lining side and make a top stitch on it. Now after top stitching, before you go ahead and iron it. I've made the top stitch, as you can see in the video, very neat. So after top stitching now, we'll just go ahead and press it down with iron. Remember, when you're ironing your chantilly lace part, be very careful. You can decide to place a fabric on top so that it doesn't burn. Don't put your iron on top of the chantilly lace directly. It might melt it. Iron your work very well. Press it down. Use the bust ham to mold your cup with a steam iron. You end up having a very good and neat job. So remember to open up all the parts on the inside that hasn't been ironed, the sides that will just join together. Open it out and iron it so that it will be very, very neat. Now after ironing, if you flip it to the right side, you see that we are almost done with the sewing of this top. It's very simple, guys. If you haven't subscribed, remember to subscribe, like this video and share it. It might be very helpful to others out there. The next thing we're going to do is to attach our bones, because after closing the down part, you cannot attach your bones again. So remember to put your bones inside all of those channels that you created earlier before you go ahead and lock the down parts. So after attaching the bones, what we're going to do is to sew this down part. Hold it together as you see me doing in the video and make a stitch using your 1-inch seam allowance that you added when you were drafting. Remember to join your shoulder together if you haven't done that already. So I'll go ahead and attach my bones and sew it all around, and then I'll come back and show you guys. So this is what I have after attaching my bones, and then I also went ahead and joined the down parts. So the only remaining part that is opened in this outfit now is the sides, where we'll be flipping it out from. But before we flip it out, remember to notch. Make notches on especially this part that has the slits, so that when you flip it open, it doesn't get squeezed on those parts. So that's the essence of notching your work. So now we're going to flip it out to the right side through the sides that we have not closed, and then before we close the side, we'll go ahead and top stitch these down parts. After top stitching, you iron it. Now this is what I have after top stitching and ironing the down part. I've also gone ahead to attach my long sleeve, and this is how beautiful the top is coming out already. The only remaining part now is to close the back and attach our eyelet, and we're almost done. See how beautiful and neat it is both on the outside and on the inside. The inside of your outfit will determine whether you did a good job or not just on the outside. And look at how neatly sewn and turned it is and ironed on the inside. it is one thing to sew corset, it's another thing for the corset to look as if you did not stress when you were making it. So if you find this tutorial helpful, don't forget to tap the subscribe button and then turn on your notification bell so that whenever I post, you'll be the first to get notified. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to use my bias and close this back side that is still open. I also create a boning channel there before I would go ahead and use this garment machine to add my eyelets. Now this is what I have after closing the back. See how neat and beautiful it is. Always iron your job. It gives you a very neat finishing. So I also went ahead and attached my back panel because I did not want my back to be showing. So, and also added the bone to this last part where I will add my eyelet afterwards. So I turned it with my bias and then I added a bone after creating the bone channel. So the next thing, the only remaining thing here now is to use our garment machine to add the eyelets. If you don't know how to do this, we'll have a video on the channel already on how to add eyelets to your corset. So what I'm doing here now is marking out the parts where I will be putting the eyelets. You can use 2 inches gaps, you can use 2.5. If you do not want it to be too wide, I used 3 because I don't mind it being wide because it's already covered with the back panel. So I'll just go ahead now and attach the eyelets and I'll be right back to show you the results. Now this is what we have after attaching our eyelets. The top is very beautiful, guys. It is very neat both inside and out. Thank you so much for watching to this point. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like. Also let us know in the comment section what you'd like us to create next. So here's the results, guys. See how beautiful it came out. Don't forget to like and share. I'll see you guys in my next video. Thank you for watching to this point. Bye.